Welcome to episode 225. Tonight on Book Chat, I am interviewing author August Cruz. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by audiobooks.com. New customers get one free audiobook when using our promo code AudioShelf. You just need to enter the code AudioShelf on the sign-up page, then click Apply, then fill out the rest of your account info. Support this podcast by using our code AudioShelf and get your first audiobook free. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, I'm so glad you're listening. Here on Book Chat, we get bookish with roundtable book discussions, book recommendation lists, interviews, and more. Be sure to check out shelfaddiction.com for even more content. Before we get started, let me tell you a bit about today's interview guest. August Cruz was born and raised in New York. He is the son of Cuban immigrant parents, and he teaches English. Stalker is his first novel, and he is currently working on his follow-up book. If you'd like to comment on something you've heard during today's episode, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Shelf Addiction, or call in and leave an internet voice message via SpeakPipe. The links for everything related to today's episode are below in the show notes. Hey August, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we've got a ton of fun stuff to talk about today, including your book. So let's just jump into things. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. So, as an author, I'm sure you read a lot, kind of like readers do. So tell me what you're reading right now.
Right now, I'm actually reading a book called "It's Always the Husband" by Michelle Campbell. It's a really well written book. It's fairly new, and it's about college roommates who become inseparable, and then they become very dear friends, and then other things start to happen between them. A couple of years later, one is threatening to commit suicide. So it's kind of it takes a little turn there.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So actually that book is on my TBR list. I actually received that book a couple of weeks ago, maybe.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So it's on my agenda to get that read before the end of the summer. So yeah.
Yeah. No, Campbell does a great job, and she's such a great writer. This is the very first book that I've ever read from her, but I'm very, very impressed. She did a great job with this.
Oh, awesome. Yay. I'm excited for it now.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So do you have any favorite authors that you kind of like? You don't even read the synopsis of the book. When you see a new one, you just buy it.
I don't know if you may have heard of Fight Club and the Chuck Palahniuk, and that's the guy who wrote it. Anything he comes out with, I instantly pick up. And of course, Perry Ellis, Jack Ketchum, who was a very dear friend of mine, who unfortunately is passed away in January of this year. But his books are still coming out. So yeah, those guys were always big. Stephen King. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as a suspense writer, I kind of like to read in the genre as well. Mm-hmm. So definitely him. But yeah, those are the big ones that really kind of draw me right away. As soon as I see anything that they came out with, I'm there.
Awesome. So because you write also in the same genre that you like to read, you mentioned Stephen King. Do you have any other authors that you think kind of may have influenced you a little bit when you started writing?
Sure. Believe it or not, even though he's not a suspense or horror writer, J.D. Salinger was the one who really made the biggest impact on me. I picked up Catcher in the Rye when I had to have been about 14, and it gripped me so much that I read everything else he ever wrote. Mm-hmm. And all of his books and biographies about him. I've seen documentaries on him. So he was a really big impact and influence on my writing and my style of writing, until I realized that I was trying to write too much like him.
Mm.
I was
Right.
like, well, no, that's not good. But it was he really made the biggest impact on me. And then later on in life, obviously the masters, Hemingway, and in terms of the macabre, I mean, you can't get away from Poe.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they really made an impact and helped heavily influenced this type of things that I write.
Yeah. Well, I understand you are not a writer by career, at least your
Hmm.
first career. What
Hmm.
encouraged you to kind of start writing and, to start with this book? Or is this your first book? Maybe it's not.
It is. It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I had always wanted to entertain and tell stories ever since I was a little kid, and I became a teacher by trade, an English teacher by trade, and then um, I came up with this idea. I used to commute into Manhattan um, every day for work. I used to take the train, and when you work a 9 to 5 schedule, when you work that type of schedule, you after a while you generally tend to see the same type of people. You see the same faces going to work because they have the same schedule that you do,
Hmm.
and even in a city as big as New York. And so I started to wonder, I wonder what kind of, lives they lead. I would buy the paper every day on the way to work, and I'd sit on the train as I'm commuting to work and reading stories. And a lot of the stories, unfortunately, were about um, people that were committing these crimes. And then in almost every single story, I would always read when their neighbors or coworkers were interviewed. I was like, oh yeah, it was such a nice guy, such a great person. But then later on, they found out they had somebody chained up in their basement.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
So
Right. Oh,
exactly. So
okay.
so you never know who you're talking to. And then later on, as I mentioned, I became very dear friends with Jack Ketchum, the horror writer. And I asked, we were hanging out one night, and I asked him, I go, you write stuff that scares the hell out of people. What is it that scares you? And without missing a beat, he said, people. Just not
Mm.
knowing what they're capable of, who they really are. Because when you're working or when you're in public, you don't. A lot of people don't really represent themselves as they really are behind closed doors. And so
Right.
that kind of got me thinking, and I started to kind of read into serial killers and stalkers and their mentality and what that's like. And I was like, this is kind of be an interesting story. And so I wrote Stalker from the stalker's point of view. And so while he doesn't realize just how depraved he
Oh
is,
my
or how,
gosh.
how crazy he is, he kind of takes like the reader through this journey where he just kind of is spiraling into this descent into obsession, and he thinks it's totally okay, and the reader's like, oh my god, what are you doing? And it's like he's
Oh
breaking
my
into her
gosh.
home and all
Oh
that
my
stuff. So yeah,
gosh. Okay,
so
so
that's how that came out.
so before we get into Everest, that's your
Mm,
character's name, right?
that's right.
Let's talk a little bit about the research you did because
Sure.
I am a huge reader of thriller and mystery,
Oh,
suspense,
okay.
psychological thrillers. I love it. And I
So you must have
also
read Thomas Harris, Silence of the Lambs, and
yeah, but
yeah,
I don't,
yeah,
but
sure.
but that's one of the many genres that I like. But I also lately, I want to say in the last year, I've really been on this true crime kick. So I've been
Oh, sure.
listening to the podcast, doing all this kind of crazy stuff. So I want to know, like,
Yeah.
what, like, were you absorbing to kind of get you in this state of mind to write for Everest?
Well, it's you know, the stuff that I researched was kind of scary and creepy because you realize just how easily that can happen, especially in today's day and age of technology, where a lot of people, well, not a lot, I hope, but a few people
Right.
will kind of Facebook or Instagram. I wonder what my ex boyfriend is doing from high school, or my ex girlfriend is doing from high school, or this person or that person, and it just comes right up right away. And as I was researching this and delving into the topic, the stuff that I found was just alarming. How many people? I mean, 7.5 million people in the U.S. alone are reported as having been stalking victims. 61% of women, 44% of men report having been stalked by a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
21% of women and 32% of men are reported as having been stalked by an acquaintance. I mean, somebody they just
Mm-hmm.
kind of casually know. And so all these things that I found, the statistics, and then the videos that I just saw. I mean, the videos of somebody down south who was, and it was broadcast, stalking his neighbor and actually filming her apartment through the window.
Oh my gosh, what a psycho.
Oh, completely. And then,
Oh,
well, I mean, unfortunately, he wound up. Sadly, the poor girl. He wound up killing the girl, and
oh my
then
gosh.
oh no, it was terrible. And then they're interviewing the news is interviewing locals about it and wondering where she was at because she had disappeared. And he actually participated. That's how sick this guy was. He actually participated in an interview, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm part of the group that's looking for her." And
Mm,
he was the one who did it. And so I was like,
mm,
that just kind of blew me away. And so I kind of added this stuff, and then um, the information that I found about this the stalking stuff, which is why we've enacted so many laws about this, and how it's zero tolerance now,
yeah.
and rightfully so.
Yeah, which is like honestly way overdue. I mean, you hear
Totally.
about all these situations like what you just mentioned where
Hmm.
people die and it's something
Oh,
that could have
sure.
been prevented if, people don't brush off that someone is following you or,
Oh, yeah.
you see the people sneaking around and creeping around
Totally.
and it's like, people
Totally.
police used to be like, well, I haven't done anything, so
Yeah, and that was the mindset back then. I mean, back in the '80s, this might be before your time, but there was a show called My Sister Sam with Pam Dauber and a very young actress named Rebecca Schaefer. And there was a
mhm.
guy who became obsessed with her. He became obsessed with Rebecca Schaefer, and he went to Los Angeles. He paid a private investigator to find out her address, gave it to him, and he showed up at her front door and shot her.
Oh,
And
that's
she
crazy.
passed away, and that's why they passed those laws of stalking in California. And
Mhm.
it's thankfully it swept the nation.
Yeah, actually, I don't remember it real time, obviously, but I
Mm.
remember it, I remember, watching like a video about that, like, or maybe it
Yeah,
was, a biography or something about her,
right.
uh, when it just blows me away. And, the
Totally.
more I listen to like different true crime things and, I listen to The Vanished. I don't know if you've ever heard of that podcast.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big Sword and Scale fan, but I have heard of Venice.
Yes, it's so good and so creepy. It's like really makes you look at people sideways.
Oh, totally.
Like,
Yeah. Who's
so
standing next to me on the train or on the bus? Yeah, oh, absolutely.
yeah. People that look normal could be really crazy. And
Absolutely.
you show this through your character. So let's talk a little bit about his,
Sure.
crazy.
Sure.
So tell me about Everest.
Everest is um he's the anti-hero. Even though he believes himself to be somebody who's trying to protect a person who he perceives as being innocent. He's had he had a really bad childhood. His mother, as I write in the book, his mother was an alcoholic, very disaffected, not an affectionate type of person. She wound up killing herself, and he was the one who found her. And so, it kind of set him on a very dark path. And then he wound up working in a customer service department for a national bookstore, and he lives in the projects. So there's no light for this guy.
Mm.
And then one day he sees this very beautiful woman come on the train, and this homeless guy comes on, is asking for money, and she gives him some food. And he sees that as one of the only acts of kindness that he has seen in a long time. And so he becomes obsessed with her, and he focuses on her, and he feels, well, we're destined to be together. I need to be a part of her life. She needs to be a part of mine. This is what can bring light to my life.
Mm.
But he goes about it the wrong way, of course.
So I've
Again,
got
I've
to
always
know
said,
this
yeah.
though.
Mhm.
Does he ever actually have a conversation with her?
He does very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
They meet, and this is even before they meet. She has no idea that he's stalking her, that he's following her, that he's taking pictures of her on his cell phone. She has no idea. They do actually meet, and they speak a couple of times. But she takes it as just sort of, just some guy from the neighborhood.
Mm.
Just somebody who I happen to bump into at the grocery store, somebody who, I see on the train. She doesn't take it as anything real, anything serious. And in the meantime, he's breaking into her apartment, looking through her stuff, reading her diary, going
Oh
through
my
her
gosh.
things. At one point, there's a scene where he actually is there when she comes home after hanging out with her friends, and she doesn't ever realize that he's there because he does it so stealthily that at one point she goes to sleep and he's underneath her bed and she has no idea.
Ah, okay, so
Yeah,
he,
like
honest to God, does not think that he is doing anything that is even a little bit wrong.
no.
Oh,
In his mind, he's justified because they are quote unquote meant to be together.
oh my
And
goodness.
it actually, in the back of the book, it even says, the minute from the moment I saw her, I knew she was the one. She had to be. She better be.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm like all the way hooked now because I just love this stuff, even though it creeps me out. And
Good.
I always say to my friends, I will always be the one to survive the zombie apocalypse and I will never be kidnapped because I know all the things to do. Okay.
Right. I hear you. Well, I've always said this is not. It's the other interviews that I've done and the signings that I've done. One of the first things I always say is this is not a how-to novel. I don't want to
Yeah.
tell you.
Yeah.
This is what to avoid, not what to emulate.
Yeah, for sure. So I
Definitely.
would love to know, like, obviously, it's kind of interesting getting into the perspective of the stalker,
Hmm.
but what motivated you more to write from his point of view versus the victim's point of view? Because that could be equally as scary.
It can be. I felt that it would instill more suspense in the reader. In Alfred Hitchcock once said when he was discussing making movies and all the suspense and stories that he filmed, that where he would film somebody, the niche is to bring the viewer along, on that journey where somebody walks in the room, there's a bomb under the chair, the audience can see there's a bomb under the chair, and the guy will just sit there and just have a drink and laugh and talk to somebody, and the audience is going, well, no, you can't do that. There's a bomb that's going to go off. So
Hmm.
I kind of took that and ran with it, and I said, what if it's written from his point of view, where the reader is like, you can't break into her apartment. What's wrong with you?
Hmm.
Or take her picture. Or there's a scene that I wrote where he's in her apartment and he's going through some of her stuff, and he's in her kitchen, and he realizes that there's a cup there that she obviously uses. And then he takes it and he says, wow, yeah, she actually, she drinks from this. And then he takes a drink from it. And in his mind, he's thinking that would make this our first kiss.
Oh my goodness, that guy
And
is the
so,
worst.
exactly. So it's like, reading it from that point of view, that's exactly the response that I would
Yeah,
expect from somebody. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're
yeah.
sick.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh.
wanted to write it from that standpoint, to try and see if I can make people say, "Oh my God, this guy is just not well." And
Oh my
so,
gosh.
yeah, that was why.
I love books that give me like that audible reaction where I'm just reading and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, I really, I get more
Sure.
fun out of it when I'm able to react in that way. And it sounds like he's going to give me many of those type of moments.
Well, hopefully this one will. I mean, most the reviews so far have been really, really great. So I'm hoping that you'll enjoy it as well.
Awesome. So, okay, is this story told from first person?
Yes, it's first person. It's told
Okay.
from Everest's standpoint. It's his point of view, and he's explaining how he sees her, what his life is like, and what he's gone through. It's totally told from his point of view.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This is very interesting.
The sequel is going to be a little bit different. It's the new one that I'm working on is it's a female stalker, uh, and it's told. It's not exactly told from her point of view. It's told from a third person.
Oh, that's going to be different, huh? Very different to write, probably.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Very
Mm-hmm.
different. Very different.
Mm-hmm. So we're not going to have any like boiling bunnies in the kitchen or
No, no, no,
anything.
no. There's no fatal attraction type of thing going. No, but she does stuff that puts Everest to shame. She's much more high tech than he is, and and very much up on the current technology, and she uses that to her advantage, which
Mm.
unfortunately people have done, which is why I kind of decided to write it this way.
Wow. So did you do any other like different research to get like, more into her character as far as, the tech and stuff like that?
Yeah, now in 20, Stalker was written in the mid, 2000s and takes place just a couple of years ago. But now we've gotten to a point where technology has just reached such a level that it just permeates every part of our lives. And so I looked into that and just you know, just on a personal level. I mean, how many times have maybe you've been contacted by somebody who you knew years ago through Facebook or Instagram? Hey, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. And
Ugh.
it's
Yeah.
that exactly it's that easy to find people. And so I kind of I took that and looked into the statistics of female stalkers, and women are more, from what I have found, are more likely to look up people online, do it more stealthily than guys. Guys tend to be a little bit more blatant about their stalking, and women tend to be a little bit more
Yeah.
sneaky about it. In the statistics that I found, where they just sort of, yeah, I wonder what he's doing. Oh, really? Oh, so he's with her. Oh, wow, look, that picture's interesting. That kind of stuff.
Oh, totally. I totally believe that. Like, not to bring down the male our
Oh, no,
counterparts,
no,
but
no, no, no.
honestly, women, they get away with some stuff if they want to. Like, they're very smart and meticulous and
Oh,
like
yes.
yes, they can be.
Way better than men. we're
Yeah, the men are just clumping around in the bushes and
That's
you're like,
right.
what's going on out there?
That's right. We're out there with a phone or
Right.
just clicking away, and women are like looking up your credit score. I mean, it's kind of, yeah, it's very different. The approaches are
Yeah.
very different.
Oh my gosh. Like I can think of at least, I don't know, a half a dozen lifetime movies where the woman is just like totally psycho and you're like, how did she bring this man down to nothing?
Oh
It's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah. Well, if I don't know
Yeah.
if you ever saw Obsessed with Beyonce and oh my God, I forget the other.
Idris Elba, right? Was he in
Yes,
it? Yes, I
yes.
did see it. Yeah.
Brilliant movie, well acted. I mean, it was incredible. But that's the kind of stuff that happened. That's the kind of stuff that I found.
Oh wow. It's nuts. Okay, I'm gonna have to add that to my
Yeah.
TVR. When is that one being released?
Well, the new one, I'm working on it now. I'm still, finalizing it and writing it, so it'll be a couple of months, but
Okay.
I'll definitely let you know.
Oh, for sure, because I'll definitely put that up on the blog. People should check it out
Thank you.
because this sounds so fun to me. I love talking about this stuff. It's crazy. No one else will sit here and talk to me about true crime and crazy stuff. It's like they think I'm weird. So I think this is totally awesome.
No, well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's the same for me.
Yes, awesome. Okay, so since this was your first book, I would love to know if you
Yeah.
have like any advice or anything for people who are trying to get their first book completed, something that helped you out, maybe.
Um, yeah. If all persistence is key. The very first rule of writing is to write what you know. Um, something that a writer told me a very long time ago was, if you can write a page a day, then you're ahead of the game, because a lot of people don't do that. They write and then they go back and they edit. No, what you got to do is you got to sit there and just write. And it's hard
Mhm.
sometimes, but and there are times that you don't want to do it. Something that Jack Ketchum told me was, you can't force it. If you don't feel like writing that day, don't do it, because what's going to happen is you're going to write something that you're not going to like. If you can write a page a day, great. At least great.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come naturally, then don't do it, because what you're going to write, you're going to wind up tossing away or rewriting later. But you got to keep at it. The biggest thing is read a lot, and read the authors that you like,
Yeah.
and those are the ones who will influence you the most.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice because honestly, I have come across a few people who want to write a book, but they don't read. I think that's so like, why wouldn't you read your
Oh my God,
craft?
you
That's
need
what you
to.
want to do,
Yeah. No, yeah,
you
you
know?
need to. It's like actors. actors watch other actors because they influence them to do their craft. It's the same thing with writing. You have to. Athletes are the same way. They admire other athletes and they watch their stuff. It's the same thing with writing. You have to read. If you don't read, then you're not going to be a good writer.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you for that. Thanks for introducing your book Stalker to us. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Stalker before we do the lightning round?
No, it's available on Amazon and Kindle, and if you like it, please leave a review. I'd love to hear it.
Awesome. Okay, so let's do the lightning round before we sign off.
Sure.
It is 60 seconds. I have a ton of questions. Okay. No one ever gets through them. Don't worry. Some are book related, some are not.
All right.
Some are open-ended. The only thing is that you must either choose an answer or answer. You can't say both. You can't say neither.
Oh, it's got to be one or the other.
Yes,
okay.
You can't skip a question.
All right. No skip. Oh, so I can't say pass.
No passes.
No passes. All right. Fair enough.
All righty. So it'll go by fast.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready. Here we go.
Physical books or ebooks?
Physical.
Hero or villain?
Hero.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Name a book that you've read in one sitting.
Frankenstein.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Milk chocolate or dark chocolate?
Oh, God. Milk chocolate.
Okay. Where's your favorite place to read?
Home, in my room.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
What was your favorite book or series when you were a child?
Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing by Judy Blume, believe it or not. Cool.
Okay, this is so important. Android or Apple?
Android.
Yay! What's your favorite food?
Oh, lasagna.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel all the way.
Yeah. Okay, you're winning. Popcorn or chips?
Chips.
All right. And we are done. See, that was quick.
It was quick. No, that was fun.
Awesome. Thanks for doing that.
No worries. Thank you for everything.
All right, everyone. Be sure to follow August on social media and pick up a copy of his book, Stalker. The links are below in the show notes. August, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, happy reading. If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.